What's happening, everybody? How we doing? Janer.
I'm doing great, Drew. I'm doing fantastic. What a night of hockey we had there. What a night.
Talk to me, bud. Let's go.
Oh, baby. Where do we start? I mean, Memorial Cup champ. Okay. Gold medalist.
Do we do it?
Beck.
Do we do it?
Come on.
Is it right now?
On.
Owen
He's
Beck!
him. He's him. Oh, my God.
Owen
MVP.
Beck and the Saginaw Spirit win the Memorial Cup, and our guy Owen Beck gets the MVP of the tournament. I'm speechless. I'm speechless, dude. I'm not trying to I'm not overhyped. I'm very just hyped and excited for Owen Beck and the fact that the Canadiens drafted this young fella here, man. Just craziness. Okay, so 5 games played in the Memorial Cup tournament. And we should mention, of course, that, London was a big juggernaut team to knock off this pedestal, right? They were going for the 3rd Memorial Cup, and Owen Beck and the Saginaw Spirit come in. I actually had a chance to see the Spirit play with Beck in early January, and they looked like a fluid, solid team, from front to back. And in 5 games played, Owen has 4 goals, 1 assist, so 5 points in 5 games. He has a solid playoff run with Saginaw. They end up losing in the Western Conference Final to these London Knights. And then they lost just this past Wednesday to the London Knights as well. So this game was beyond a revenge tour for Saginaw. Owen Beck laying out
Easton Cowan.
What was going on? Owen Beck's best version of himself thus far showed yesterday in not just one game. It was throughout the tournament that he earned the MVP honors. And then in this game, it capped it off. He was outstanding, the physicality. And I want to mention this too. I just want to mention this because I just found it this morning. In Owen Beck's first NHL game against the Ottawa Senators, he was facing off against Claude Giroux. And we all know how good Owen Beck is in the faceoffs. By the way, 70.4% in the faceoff dot was Owen Beck. Disgusting, right? And then he faces off against Claude Giroux. This is going back, a year and a half ago to his NHL debut with the Canadiens in Ottawa. And then a couple plays later, Claude Giroux gives Owen Beck a bump. And then on the next face-off where they're squaring off against each other, Claude Giroux whispers to him, he says, you're actually pretty strong, kid. Nice job.
Yeah.
I actually have the quote from Claude Giroux. He's like, yeah, he gave him a bump and he said, you're a pretty strong kid, is what Claude Giroux said to Owen Beck. And we saw that again last night with the hit on Easton Cowan, Toronto Maple Leafs prospect, who was the MVP of the OHL Championship Series, the OHL Player of the Year.
Yeah.
For the London Knights. Dude, what a night for Owen Beck. What a night for Owen Beck and the Saginaw Spirit, and for Habs fans that have been following along his journey, including yours truly. Yes, he is up on the wall, ladies and gentlemen, by the way.
Boom!
Let's go. One of the most kind, and this guy, he just granted an interview before mine that night too. That's when I met the guys from Habsolutely, was the night that we all met Owen Beck, and both got to interview him separately. A standout player, a standout performer, a standout student, the Scholastic Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Last year, as we know, or 2 years ago, was it, right? But regardless, what are your thoughts at this point on this guy, man?
Drew, I also got a chance to sit down and chat with him.
Yes, you did.
With good old Grant there on the Recruits Draft Cast. If you haven't checked it out yet, I do invite you to go see that. It was back in January, I believe. But I share the same sentiment. This guy has it. You know what I mean? He's got it. He all over the place. He's got the mentality. He's got the dog in him, right? When you're able to step up your game at that level when it matters most, that's as green a flag as you can get, right? That's what you want out of a player. So seeing what he did yesterday was just mind-blowing. He was the best player on the ice by far. You could give credit to Simpson, right? Goaltender for the London Knights, who kept the London Knights in it because he was getting peppered, right? But But nonetheless, I think Owen Beck was well deserving of the MVP. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Habs fan and I like the guy. It's just unbiased fact. He was the best player for the Saginaw Spirit and at the Memorial Cup final for sure. 2 goals, big check. He was involved in all aspects defensively. He was creating offense on the faceoffs, just ridiculous. He was impacting the game every time he was on the ice. How did he fall to the second round, Drew? How did Lane Hutson fall to the second round? What? This is reminiscent of like 2007 when the Habs walked out with like Ryan McDonough, Max Pacioretty, and PK Subban in one draft. You know, we got Slav. Meshar is going to be great. We're not talking about him either. Meshar, Owen Beck, Lane Hutson, Adam Engstrom. Come on, that's some Kent Hughes masterclass right there, baby.
That's what brings me to it. Like, this question has to come up, and it's very, very, very early still. But could the 2022 draft class be the best in Canadiens history if everything works out the way we suspect it could?
It could. I mean, listen,
you just named them all. You just named them all, Shane.
I've been praising Juraj Slafkovsky for quite a while now. You know, I'll say it again. I'll admit my faults. I was a Shane Wright guy, right? But I didn't do enough research. That's on me. That's on me. I take full responsibility. And now I see that he was the right pick. He's going to be a superstar. I will put my hand in the fire in that statement. Owen Beck is going to be a middle six center all day, every day. Lane Hutson's going to be a power play quarterback. Philip Meshar is going to be a good NHL winger. Adam Engstrom is going to be an NHL defenseman. It's a very real possibility, Drew. It's a very real possibility.
It does seem like there's legitimate potential just based on how much we follow these guys' careers. Now, the jury's not out on Meshar for some reason. I'm not going to get into him right now because I feel like he's a whole other conversation. As a playmaker, I mean, outstanding. We saw how many assists he put up with Kitchener in the OHL playoffs this year.
Ridiculous.
We saw the progress, right, with his game. We saw him at the World Juniors and the progress there and how he was a star for Slovakia. He was a star for Slovakia at the World Juniors.
Fantastic.
That late game tying goal, it was a one-shot game where Slovakia could have advanced, but they didn't. But when it comes to these guys and where they're at in their careers, where they're at in their journeys, I know it's very early to suggest something like, you know, this is the best draft class and all that. It's very, very early still, but there's legitimate potential based on what they're showing us, right? And I do want to get to Owen Beck being announced as the MVP of the Memorial Cup. Let's let these couple of clips roll here, folks.
Le gagnant cette saison du Spirit de Saginaw, Owen Beck.
Like, you hear the crowd just going nuts there. And then I think we can talk over top of this because there's no audio, but here's Owen actually receiving the trophy and being named the Stafford Smith Memorial Trophy winner, most valuable player for the Saginaw Spirit. The MVP chants are going. You can see the crowd chanting MVP right here. And then there's Owen to cap it off here. But, you know, what was interesting about looking back, this is what I did, Shane. This is what I did in the last several days, even before the Memorial Cup final, before Saginaw even advanced to get there. I looked at the 2022 draft video again for the Canadiens, right? And that was when they were interviewing Slafkovsky, Owen Beck, Philip Meshar, Adam Engstrom, Lane Hutson, all these guys. And in the interview with Owen Beck, they cut to a shot of one of the Canadian scouts, and he was ready to pound the table for the Canadiens to take Owen Beck at 26th. Never mind 33rd.
Yeah.
So they were very high on Owen Beck. Some scouts were, specifically one, as you watch the draft. I don't have his name in front of me right now, but they really liked Owen Beck even then. And he goes in to explain how he had the best face-off percentage in the OHL at 18.
That was the funny clip, right? I remember it was asking, so like, are you good in face-offs? Yeah, I'm pretty good. Like, how good are you? Best in the OHL. And he is.
He was saying
it. Stats to back it up.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's unbelievable.
It was just pretty neat to see that. And you know, we're gonna get into the combine in a second because this is a huge week. This is a huge week for this draft. It's way bigger than I think we realize. And just want to, again, celebrate like this right here is kind of surreal. It's kind of surreal to see Owen and Saginaw get to this spot and this is the biggest, for those that don't follow junior hockey as closely as some others do. My good friend Brandon Caputo, who covers the Niagara Ice Dogs and the OHL on the Armchair GM Sports Network, he's going to join us this week as well to talk more in depth about Owen Beck and what he saw from him throughout the season and what he saw from other NHL prospects that are in the draft, this coming draft. And his teammate Zane Parekh, as an example, who is going to go potentially in the top 5, definitely top 10. But you see the importance of this trophy. This is the highest. This is the mountaintop for junior hockey with this championship. This is Canada-wide the biggest trophy in junior hockey, period. And for Owen Beck to have last year won the OHL championship with his hometown Peterborough Petes, by the way. Class organization. They granted the interview with him, and I just want to thank them again for that, because an outstanding kid. But really, to win the OHL championship, to have the disappointment of getting to now, let's not forget that Peterborough did get to the Memorial Cup last year and also lost. But this year, losing to London in the Western Championship, not even getting a chance to get to the finals again, but then coming back, like I mentioned earlier, and capping off Owen Beck's junior career. I don't think you couldn't have possibly written a better script for Owen Beck. The goals that he scored, we didn't even talk about the goals. I mean, right off the face-off, your eye roll there was amazing. Right off the face-off, top corner, and then him calling for it on the one-timer.
Beautiful.
I mean, you don't see a lot of celebration, but we saw some emotion out of him. We saw the physicality, like I mentioned, but he took it to another level, like you said, Shaner. And for the 33rd overall pick, to have gotten Machar and Beck within 7 picks of each other, not too bad scouting job for the Canadiens here. Like this makes you kind of proud to think that if this works out, this is going to be something good for the future of this team, man.
Listen, Owen Beck has proven that he is a winner, right? That's if there is a quality that you want out of a prospect, is that he is a winner. He will give you everything he has when it's time to win. He's got a gold medal at the World Juniors. He's got an OHL championship. He's got a Memorial Cup, and he's 20 years old. This guy's a winner, right? The Petes traded for him and won the OHL championship. The Saginaw Spirit traded for him. They won the Memorial Cup. He's adapted to a bunch of different situations. He's not had an easy junior career. He played for 3 different teams, but he was always able to adapt and overcome. And now he's a Memorial Champ winner and MVP. Come on. You saw in that clip that you showed, Drew, where when he was announced, he got crowded. Everybody went to him and they were so happy for him. He played 32 games with the Spirit regular season, right? And then, 17 games in the playoffs and the 5 in the Memorial Cup. But this was a group that was already sort of pre-established. He joined in late, as you will, and they love him. He integrated the team, and it was the captain, Haché, last night, who was talking about how this team is a family, right? And every player in that group just bonded so close, and Owen Beck is a part of that, right? He came in late, but he was able to adapt and overcome. That I keep seeing green flags. You know what I mean? Like we're more excited. This isn't the flashiest player. He's not going to dangle everybody, but he's going to outwork you. He's going to outplay you. He's going to do everything he can to be better than you. And yesterday he showed that he was better than everyone else.
Yep, he sure did. And just so that we know, we had somebody ask a question about what does a green flag mean? It's the opposite of a red flag. So
red flag is essentially like, that's not good.
And a
green flag is like, that's good.
Exactly. So I wanted to clarify that for one of our viewers who made a comment. He's like, can you clarify? And then also what the term unicorn means. So I was like, well, Connor McDavid would be a unicorn. Would we say that's pretty fair?
A unicorn is, no? I would quantify it. So it's easier in basketball terms. A unicorn is like a tall player who can shoot, right? Usually shooters are a bit smaller. Tall players are more around the rim, right? Going for rebounds and dunks and stuff like that. Hockey-wise, a unicorn is a player who can be physical, play defensively, can score, create offense, is a threat in every zone, in every situation. So that to me is what I describe as a unicorn. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I appreciate that definition because somebody asked. I was like, I'll get Shane to clarify when we talk on the show again. So and now you did. So, but it just again, really outstanding for Owen Beck, and we've talked about him for 15 minutes almost here. This guy was a treat to deal with, and I just can't wait to see him progress even further into his NHL career. He's going to be, he's turning pro. I mean, he's going to come into training camp, and here's the thing too. He was one of the last cuts at training camp, the last two seasons, in his draft year and the next year. So the development plan for Owen Beck and the path has really seemed to have, it's a great success story so far for the Canadiens.
Listen, his junior career is over, right? Yeah, that's it. He's done. He's turning pro now. I don't know. It's too early to say where he'll be next year, Laval, Montreal, but I think he's going to be in Laval, and I'll explain why. Training camp, if he just blows everyone out of the water and he is just that good that you have to keep him, absolutely do. Right? He deserves a spot in the NHL. Give it to him. But the center depth right now in Montreal is actually pretty good, which is fun to say because we haven't been able to say that in a while. You got Suzuki, Doc's going to be healthy. That's it. Doc's going to be healthy, so he's back. Christian Dvorak is still there. Jake Evans, Alex Newhook can play center. So I don't know that there's room for him now, but in Laval, he'll have a top 2 center spot. Without a doubt, he'll get power play time. He'll get big minutes. I think that would be a good situation for him to start in. And then, maybe like a Joshua Roy situation where he just outplays everyone and he earns a spot in the team, because of injury or whatever. So, but if you told me that he made the team from training camp, I wouldn't even be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I think, like you said, he will likely start in Laval. It just makes sense. But I mean, the confidence he must be riding right now. I mean, like to knock off London too, of like a team that came back. Huge. Like we didn't even mention that London came back. What a Saginaw won by the hair on their chin here. You know what I mean? And also I have to mention that I want to touch on the Oilers and Panthers Stanley Cup final, by the way, which is ahead of us in a moment. But it's pretty cool to see on hockeydb.com Owen Beck trending at number 1. McDavid, number 2. After the disgusting goal that McDavid scored last night, that was one of the best of his career by a long shot. And it was just pure vintage McDavid, but also it really elevated him now to this place of the Stanley Cup final. So I think we'll just jump into it for a moment. And then we don't normally do this. We always are so Habs focused, Habs centric on my channel, as you guys know. But I think we got to talk about the fact that the Oil have made the Stanley Cup final against the Panthers. This is a really, really good matchup if you've really been paying attention in the playoffs. The Florida Panthers, I took them versus the Rangers. I took the Oilers versus Dallas. I'm proud to say that because on paper, Dallas was the favorite by far. Mm-hmm. The Oilers hadn't showed that they could withstand the attack. Stuart Skinner had a lot to prove, right? Which he just seems to have, proved himself. Now really is where it's all on the line now. The Oilers are in the Stanley Cup for the first time since 2006 when Rod Brind'Amour and the Carolina Hurricanes beat the Oilers for the Stanley Cup. We see that clip, on the commercials, right? When we're watching the playoffs, see Rod Brind'Amour's face in there, just so excited, so happy winning that cup. But let's touch on this just for a moment because it was pretty fun flipping back and forth between the Mem Cup and the Western Conference final last night. And seeing the Oilers get it done. Canada is going to be in the Stanley Cup, and Hyman's comments about Toronto, and if they're going to be behind them, like you're going to get over it, okay? Like you got to cheer for Canada in the Stanley Cup, and the Oilers are there, so it's going to be entertaining to say the least. Shanner, it's going to be a hard fought series. We are in for a treat, man.
Yeah, that's it. And I mean, if you want to put a Habs spin on it, Brett Kulak and Corey Perry are former Montreal Canadiens are in the Stanley Cup final. Granted, they're the Corey Perry curse has been relentless. So that's 4 straight, or was it 3? Or, anyways,
I think it's 3.
Yeah,
Tampa,
3.
Dallas,
This is the
Edmonton now.
hopefully the curse gets broken this year. Hopefully for Perry and Brett Kulak. And listen, Brett Kulak is one of my favorite non-Habs, and I'll tell you why. Because he got us Lane Hudson, baby. I love that guy. Love him.
Round of applause to you, sir.
What a
and
trade.
Kent,
Anyways,
and Kent and
I wish him all the success. We'll definitely be cheering for the Oilers. But you know what? If the Panthers do take it home, I wouldn't be mad at all. I think Alexander Barkov is just a phenomenal player. Great
it's like
leader.
A win-win for fans. It's for
exactly
for neutral,
is great.
Non-biased fans. It's a win for us either way.
This is great for hockey in general. I completely agree with you. This, no matter what, I think we can be happy of who wins. It's going to be a fantastic battle. I mean, you got one of the best offenses in the league against one of the most complete teams in the league with a goaltender that's been just insane. Sergei Bobrovsky. Come on. I had him in fantasy this year, and he did me good. I came first, so thank you to him.
Yes,
but
sir.
I mean, you look at the teams on paper, right? Okay, sure, Edmonton has, I guess, an edge on forward, even though they might not be as deep as Florida. But defense, I'd give to Florida. Goaltending, I'd give to Florida. So it's going to be really interesting, right? You said that if you compared the Oilers versus the Stars, on paper, the Stars should win. But the Oilers have that X factor, and his name is Connor McDavid. When you have the best player in the world on your team, anything is possible. Anything is possible. We saw it yesterday. The Oilers were not dominant whatsoever against the Stars. Like, they got outshot pretty badly, but you got Connor McDavid on your side, and my goodness, he proved again why he is the man. How can you not like what you're seeing there? It's just pure skill. How I don't know, man. My brain just can't comprehend when I see him. Like, how do you think this fast? How do you know how to move like this? Like, anyways, he's breathtaking. If he's able to lift the cup, I will be thrilled.
It'll be pretty neat to see, to say the least. And he's going to lift it at some point, whether it's in 2 weeks or 2.5 weeks from now. Yeah. But it was interesting hearing Eric Engels talk about Miro Heiskanen and how he's one of the best defensemen in the game. And then for him to just be undressed on that goal by McDavid the way he was, like, oh my gosh. And then for, Connor to draw 2 defenders and then set up Zach Hyman and he goes roof daddy. Like, special teams really makes such a huge difference. But it wasn't just the Oilers power play. They went 14 for 14 on the penalty kill. That's crazy. Right?
How
like, what was it? Didn't it go beyond that? Like, they went like into the Vancouver series. It was like 28 penalty kills or something like that. I'm trying to remember, but I know that in this series they were perfect against the Dallas Stars, which
that's huge.
Like, to me, this is a big deal. And that's why I feel like the Oilers defensively, like, I know that Darnell Nurse had his moment, but that's forgotten now with the media there. But I mean, it's emotional. But to me, the Oilers, Ekholm and
Bouchard.
Like, oh my gosh.
He's
seriously
insane.
These guys really have done an outstanding job. Brett Kulak doing his thing. Cody Ceci, not the sexiest defenseman to watch in the NHL. Like, he tries to clear the puck, and that's all you kind of see him do. That's all he does, right? Like, he just tries to bank it off the glass and out. All right, Cody did his job, guys. But hats off to these Oilers for getting it done so far. The Panthers are such a good matchup for them. I mean, it's just I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled that this is where we are. Like you mentioned, Barkov, Matthew Tkachuk, Bobrovsky, Ekblad. Just the Florida Panthers are deep. Sam Bennett, like, these guys, it's going to be a war.
Gustav Forsling in these playoffs. Oh my God!
Like, who is he?
I'm a Forsling truther. I've been pushing him for a while now.
Outscored himself.
This is next level. Like, he's been arguably their best defenseman. And you got a team with Montour, Ekblad, Ekman Larson. Like, Forsling has stepped up, man. Wow, he's been legit.
It's crazy to think. I thought about this yesterday. I'm like, you thought about that Huberdeau for Kadri trade and the Tkachuk trade, I should say. And you're like, oh my gosh, like they knew what they were doing, didn't they?
Oh my, yeah.
Like they really knew what they were doing and going to get Matthew Tkachuk and like just craziness.
Dog.
So I can't wait for that series to start. So I'm going to jump into the draft combine this week. This is a huge week. And I mentioned earlier about Owen Beck and his draft combine interview. And I don't even know if I mentioned it already or not, but Juraj Slafkovsky, here he is. This is before the Canadiens selected him. This is his draft combine interview, talking about how he cooked for himself at 14, 15 years old. I'm 37 years old, and I'm just learning how to cook now, okay? So I just want to say that. But, this guy here with his big smile, his braces, just getting his teeth right just before he cracks the NHL. David Reinbacher answering the question about the lady in the bank line.
Oh, I hope he's not back. That was stupid.
It's kind of funny though. It is funny.
It was funny, but at the same time, like, come on.
Who's gonna answer that any differently though?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm just gonna let him pass her. That's fine. I'm not gonna. Of course, you're gonna intervene. But yeah, let's hope they get asked better questions this year.
Yeah. So what the reason I wanted to do the show today, and it just so happened that Owen Beck took over the show. Thank you, Owen. We appreciate you. Like, just still can't wrap my head around it fully. But the draft combine here this week, these interviews, these evaluations, like the physical tests are what they are, and they're going to probably show some scouts and some teams more about a player's physicality and their ability, but it's about the hockey at the end of the day. Like these tests, they've even said don't determine, okay, we got to take this guy because he's the best at the 40-meter dash or whatever it is, like on the bike test or the beep test, whatever it is, like we did in high school. But these interviews here, and that's why I showed those clips of Slav and Beck and Mr. Reinbacher. This really is going to be a major deciding factor because this is the biggest character evaluation. Character has been important. You look at the kind of player and person Owen Beck is, like and Slafkovsky and Reinbacher, Lane Hudson. The interviews that we got to see, Jacob Fowler last year.
Oh yeah,
what a revelation and what a
swagger.
The swagger, just the person we got to know, the people we got to know, all these kids. So that's what I want to ask you is, how much does the draft combine influence which players teams are going to select at this draft? Because the hockey is done. There's no more hockey to be played. There's no more evaluating to be played on the ice or evaluating to be done on the ice for scouts. This is it. So how important is this week here in Buffalo? And how much does it influence teams on who they're going to take, Shane?
It's pretty big. I mean, listen, if you compare to like the NFL, right? The NFL draft combine is its own thing. It's huge, because it's actually important. The physical testings, the interviews, all of that actually holds a lot of weight when you're drafting a player in the NFL. We saw Xavier Worthy beat the 40 record, right? And he got drafted in the first round because of that. In the NHL, it's not the same, right? You could do as many pull-ups as you want. If you're not the best hockey player, you're just not going to get drafted. So the physical testing part to me is more so to highlight red flags. We're back to the flags here, but you can't really help your draft stock, if that makes sense, but you can certainly hurt it. If scouts see that you're lacking in certain physical departments, they say, okay, he's not that strong, he's not that fast. Like, what is this? So that could actually hinder a player's draft stock, but I don't think that the physical testing can actually help it. Now, the interviews, like you mentioned, is where the money is made. Okay, that's where you find the gems. Sure, the teams have been in contact with prospects for a while already, right? This is not the only time they get to talk with them. They have virtual meetings and little stuff like that. But this is a time where you have all the scouts in one room, and you can drill this player, and you can ask specific questions and just really get into their mind. That's why you have to be very selective with your questions. Okay, Mr. Psychiatrist, whoever you are. That was terrible. Anyways, still not over that stupid question. Okay, but point is, you remember when I talked to you about Owen Beck being a winner, right? He's got that mentality, that dog in him. That's where you find that, right? You push these players, you test them mentally to see how they respond to criticism, right? You show them bad plays. What went wrong here? How would you fix that, right? You make them uncomfortable, and you see how they can handle that. Slavkovsky, right? He showed that he can handle pressure. What hockey market has more pressure than Montreal? You know what I mean? So he showed that he was made to play here, right? He had confidence, but he wasn't cocky. You know what I mean? He understood what he was capable of, and that's where we're gonna find the gems in this draft. At 5, there's just so many players that are potential if we're looking just on ice talent. But what could push a player above the rest is in these interviews. If you see something, the character, right? Certain characteristics that stand out, you're like, okay, this could be a really good fit. Like, I know that this guy's a locker room guy. He's passionate. He's got that fire. He's got that dog in him. He's a winner. It could push someone above the rest. So you mentioned, like, this is huge. It's a huge weekend. Absolutely.
It just seems to me like this is kind of going to help solidify, or at least, a lot more closely solidify their list as to who they're thinking they want to take at 5th overall. Should
Without
they
a doubt
keep the pick? And we expect that they probably will. Probably.
Mm-hmm.
But there is another question I want to ask you, and that is about a certain gentleman's comments, and that is Don Waddell, new general manager of the Columbus Blue Jackets, who, as we know, are selecting 4th overall. Is it 4th or 3rd? Forgive me here.
4th. Yeah.
Thank you. Just want to make sure I was correct. So you sent me a tweet, about his comments, and he kind of hinted that, it's maybe a little easier, or maybe I'll let you kind of go through the quote, because he was kind of hinting that Columbus could possibly take a forward and not a defenseman. So I do have the tweet here if you want me to pull it up, but maybe you can just, go off your dome and, tell me you looked into it with more context, and I actually have that as well. So what did Don Waddell mean when addressing who Columbus could possibly take at 4th overall? Because it could affect the Canadiens big time, and who they're going to pick.
That's it. So I'm paraphrasing here, right? But essentially, Donnie Boy said that it was right. Defense, cleaning up the defensive zone was the main priority, essentially. However, he said it's easier to clean up the defensive zone than it is to bring in offense.
Pure goal scorer.
Which led, a lot of people thinking, okay, so they're going forward. Not necessarily, right? Their priority is still defense. And I think there's a glaring hole on the right side. To me, that's where they need to address. They have great forward prospects and young players. They still have Johnny Gaudreau, who we know is capable of great things. Patrick Laine, I don't know where he's at, right? But
yeah,
if they don't go forward, it's fine. They don't need to. I think right defense should be the move for them. But again, I'm not, bless you. I'm not in those discussions. So I don't know.
Thank you.
But it was a little scary for Habs fans hearing that he wants, he might prioritize getting offense rather than addressing his biggest need, which is cleaning up the defense.
Right. And I do have what you sent me here. So Don actually says that the priority is defense, but that it's easier to level out the decor than it is to find offense. That points you towards a player like Owen Beck's teammate on Saginaw, Zane Parekh.
Bingo.
So
who plays right defense? Everything falls into place.
Right. So what did you really just get a sense that that's kind of just how GMs play it? Like that could go either way, those comments, really.
Oh, listen, those comments made me even more confused than I was before. Like, I genuinely have no clue where Columbus is going with this. They could go forward, they could go defense. I don't know. I don't think they're going goalie, but there's a lot of players that they could go at 4. I think Anaheim and Chicago obviously will have, an impact on who they pick. and even Anaheim, I mean, Pat Verbeek literally came out and said, we're looking to get a right-hand D or a right-hand forward. So that's a little more clear cut. Like, okay, we know at least what they're looking for. But back on Zane Parekh, I mean, the fit to me is there. Like, you're looking for offense. That is the most offensively gifted defenseman in this draft, right? And he happens to play right D. I don't know. I just see the fit. However, I will say I was not impressed with Parekh in last night's game. I don't know, maybe the pressure got to him. Maybe he was hurt. He got drilled in the face in the first period. So maybe that, he was a little concussed or something, but not my favorite game of his. And usually, listen, this is just one game, right? You got to look at the whole sample size. He's fantastic. I'm still very, very high on Zane Parekh. Last night was not his best game. On the flip side, however, you got Sam Dickinson, who's, also in that discussion to be a top defenseman. I thought he had a great game. So I don't know how much stock, GMs and scouts want to put into this one game. However, it is a very important game. It's a very telling game since it is, okay, this is where you go all in and you give it everything you got. And, one guy was clearly better than the other. But overall, I mean, it's Columbus. I genuinely have no idea where they're going to go. None.
Yeah, it's that's why, even Bob McKenzie himself told us that, I mean, in his draft lottery rankings, that it's an unpredictable ride after Macklin Celebrini. Like, it really
Absolutely.
is. So that's why, to me, I thought I'd, bring this up, because I felt like this week is such an important tool to use to evaluate these players' psyche and how they're going to handle the Montreal market and all that kind of stuff. And just to get to know the person on a deeper level. And at this point, like, these guys know the player already, don't they? Like, don't the scouts have a pretty good feel about the player before they get to these interviews?
For sure. I mean, I talked with Cole Hudson not too long ago.
Yes.
He mentioned that he's been in contact with a bunch of teams already. Like, they chat with him, they have discussions, but the actual, draft interviews and those meetings at the combine are much different, right? That's where you can bring footage in, you can drill them, you can bring certain different experts to ask specific questions. You can bring psychologists, right? You can. Don't bring that one again, please. But these little meetings that teams have before the combine, those are just to get a better feel for the person, right? Try to get to know them. They're not trying to get to know them on a personal standpoint at the combine meeting. They want to get to hear what's in here, what makes you tick, what makes you go. That's really what they want to find out.
Right. There is a player that lately seems to, well, we're going to find out pretty soon from Bob McKenzie and his final draft rankings, which we all can't wait for. Because as of right now, Iginla, right now he was ranked at number 10 on the draft lottery rankings from Bob McKenzie. You just told me before we hit record, you think Iginla could go before the Canadiens select at number 5.
Absolutely, I do.
What brings you to that conclusion at this point?
Again, it's Columbus, right? They're the wild card. If they deem that Tej has, again, these interviews are going to reveal a lot. If they deem that he's got the mentality necessary, right? And we see the skill, like, that's undeniable. If you think Iginla is not worthy of a top 5 pick, you just don't know hockey. Okay, he's incredibly skilled. Now, it's what's up here that's going to make the difference. And maybe other players that are still available. Do they prefer this guy over this guy? It's, I don't think positional need is going to play a factor really for Columbus. I think they're just going to go with their favorite player here. Unlike the Habs, where, okay, they won't go for a left D. You can cross that out right away. It's not going to happen. There is a chance they go right D. Slim chance. probably going to go forward. I'd say there's a 90% chance they go forward. With Columbus, they need just about anything, right? They're building something good, but they don't have that depth that, say, Anaheim or even the Habs have prospect-wise. So it's crazy. I mean, they absolutely could take Iginla, and I think that'd be a great pick. I think, put him on a line with Adam Fantilli and I don't know, Kent Johnson. You got Cole Sillinger. You got Gavin Brindley there. You're building a heck of an offense, right? So it's entirely possible. And if he is the pick at 5, that I'm going to be thrilled about it. Thrilled. I'm very high on Iginla.
I mean, this happens a lot, right? Like at the draft, because we only get to take one player, we really get kind of really hyper focused on one player. But is it true that the Canadiens had already met with Iginla? Because that's what I like more than once before, like at some point earlier this year. Did you hear anything to that effect? Because a couple of people were telling me that they had already met with Iginla in person. It was either him or Lindstrom. I don't think it was Lindstrom, and I'm pretty sure it was Iginla. But did you hear anything about that?
I did not, but I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm sure that scouts keep in touch with the player, the coach, the agents of these prospects. So they have to do their due diligence. Scouts don't just go there to watch the games; they actually talk to the players too, right? They talk to their environment to see. You get a better picture of who you're getting, right? You're not just getting a hockey player; you're getting an actual human being. Is that person going to fit into your organization? Is that person going to bring you one step closer to the Stanley Cup? That at the end of the day is the goal. You want to build a winning team, a Stanley Cup winning team, not a President Trophy winning team. Who cares about that? You finish first in the regular season. Congrats. Here's a little banner. No. You want the big trophy. You want the ring. You want the parade. That's what you want. It starts at the draft. So those combine interviews, those are going to be telling. For sure.
Now, we also know that the World Championships just happened, which Iginla just played in. And we saw Kent Hughes interviewing with TSN. He was there. They were there to watch Teach. Like, come on. They weren't just there to watch Teach, but they were there to really, I don't know, man. Like, I know they weren't there just to watch him, but he was one of the top draft eligible prospects playing in that tournament. Right. So to me, and I'm, everyone's trying to get a read on everything. We're still 26 days away, 24, 25 days away from the draft itself in Vegas, but it's something about him that really is quite polarizing lately. And I think it's a much more difficult choice with Beckett Seneke. Is it Seneke, or because Arpin said
I've heard Seneca. I don't know.
Seneca. I think it's Seneca. That's what Arpin, I think, most recently called him. It's like something tells me, though. Something tells me, and I don't know for sure. It's probably the injury history as well. But if it's between Iginla and Lindstrom, I see them taking Iginla over Lindstrom. Personally, I know that they could really use another power forward, especially when you look at the Florida Panthers and your Barkovs and we didn't even mention Carter Verhaeghe, Sam Bennett, like all those guys that play tough and play big, Matthew Tkachuk. So Lindstrom makes perfect sense if you're looking for another, because he's the best power forward available, but he may not be available anyway at 5. I'm just thinking, my gosh, if they're both available at 5, Iginla and Lindstrom, who do you give the edge to?
It's tough. So again, I think but I think there's going to be 2 big factors at play, right? Obviously the interviews. Once you get to know the person a little bit more, because talent wise, we know, I mean, Ken Lindstrom was damn near goal a game pace, right? Not a point per game, a goal a game pace. But we know his injury, his injury background, right? So that's a bit of a red flag. And then Tej has been elite at every level, right? Every time he's played hockey this year, he was elite, whether it be for Team Canada or the Kelowna Rockets, right? And the Kelowna Rockets, by the way, are not a great team. Like, he wasn't playing with superstars on that team. He was making them better, right? That's a huge factor for me when I'm looking at players. I'm looking, okay, are other players making you better? Or are you making other players better, right? Can you be put in any situation and still thrive? Or do you have to be placed in a specific situation with specific players in order to thrive? He's more of the latter. He, I think, makes people around him better, and that's a huge, huge green flag. We're talking a lot about flags today, but hey, that's that's the business. So again, it's the interviews and the injury, right? Caden Lindstrom, is he injury prone? I wouldn't put too much stock into that, to be honest with you. He is 18 years old. You know what I mean? He is tall. He is still growing into his body. I think with time, with proper training, proper nutrition, good therapists, right? To me, it's not much of a concern. I know a lot of people are scared about it. I'm not. I'm just not. The injury he had to his hand is, I don't think it's going to be, a recurring thing. It's really the back stuff that's concerning. But from all accounts, he's fine. And I actually think it's been confirmed he'll be at the combine doing the physical testing. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. This is a situation where you have to be in the rooms to know who's above who. From our standpoint, they're pretty much neck and neck. I mean, me personally, I'd probably give the edge to Lindstrom just because of the power forward aspect. He's got those intangibles that you cannot teach that are just next level. But if, again, I told you, if the pick is Iginla, I'm jumping up and down. I'm thrilled. Okay. That'd be a great pick.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty fascinating this year in more ways than one, just because of the unpredictability after Celebrini. So, yeah, it's going to be fascinating. This is a huge week. This is the week where we're going to get insight into after when the Canadiens release their draft video, because again, we're drafting pretty high again, same position as last year at number 5. And we're going to get to see the interviews with, for sure, who they actually select. But it's a big one. So I can't wait, man. I am thrilled to, see where this takes us. In less than a month from now, the Canadiens will be selecting in this draft, and who it's going to be. It's going to be fascinating. It's going to be good. So with that, my friend, we will end off. Third overall in the 2022 NHL Entry Draft for the Canadiens. The Oilers, the Panthers, they're in the Cup final. The Canadiens are selecting 5th overall, and we have no idea who it's going to be still. And that makes it fun.
None.
But thank you, everybody. Thank you. Please hit like on that video. Hit subscribe. Appreciate the support. You guys are the best. Thank you, Shaner, for always joining me, my friend. Thank you for bringing what you bring every single time. Appreciate you, pal.
Love it.
Thanks, guys.